And you've got a guy who's really championing you and your brother and your friends, and you got this band, and I think it probably would have been a lot to undertake, to on the organizational side, or somebody to be out there pushing you or booking you tours, trying to get you an agent, all those things, and just kind of nurturing you. One of the things that's really cute in the book, and maybe Peter, I think there's a question in here somewhere, is that you actually invented a legal document that you got Tommy's mother to sign that stated that you were indeed his legal guardian, so that Tommy could get into 21 and over nightclubs and whatever, get out of jail or whatever, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was actually. I mean, Tommy's mom, Anita, is a very close friend of mine as well. We got along from day one. She's a great woman. Supported these guys, making all that racket in the basement for years.
My sister still has an issue with it.
Right. But at a certain point, as we started to get a little further out of town. With gigs, going to smaller towns like St. Cloud, Minnesota, or Duluth, Minnesota, or whatever it was. Occasionally we'd bump into a bar owner who was a little uncomfortable with an underage person in a 21 and over, establishment that served alcohol. And so I don't remember if your mom brought it up to me or I brought it up to her, but I just said, we should just, create some kind of a document, get it notarized, and I can carry it around in my briefcase while we're going to gigs, and maybe this will get some of these guys off our back. I don't think it would have stood up in court, but basically I took some language, just said, I, Anita Stinson, give Peter Jesperson guardianship of my son, Thomas Stinson, for the purpose of, performing with this band, The Replacements or whatever. I think it really came into play when we stared going out of state, actually.
Yeah, it was to be able to cross state lines and not be like, what do you got this kid over in New York for when he's not even of age,
Right,
It was a serious thing back then. And
right.
it was serious to play clubs. I spent a lot of time in some clubs, in the kitchen or having to wait till gig time, to come out to be able to play them and stuff. But yeah, it was important as the older I got, to have a guardian.
Yeah, so I typed it up on a piece of twin tone stationery. We had really classy looking stationery, and I signed it, and Anita signed it, and we took it to a notary public, and she put her stamp on it, and that was it.
So tell me, what was that like, the early days of having Peter really in your corner? Do you think it was important? Obviously it was.
Yeah, he was our mentor, and I guess what it really comes down to is like, in my little brain, it was, I would go to his house and I would just, his apartment, I would just listen to everything he's playing. And, he'd tell me all these stories, he'd explain the music, and I had a really sort of he was like a teacher. Really, you were. You would talk about why this was so great, and so I'd walk out of there going, God, I hope I write something as cool as that one day. That's kind of how you always left it. And I think that's what kind of part of how we were able to keep our eyes on what was important to us, because I think we kind of early on knew that what we were doing was credible because Peter liked it, and he held it in a different regard than it's just pop music, or it's just this, or it's on the radio. It held up. It made us feel, even though we're playing shitty little clubs or whatever, we must be doing something good, because you go over to his house, he plays all this great music, and he likes us too. That's kind of the thing you get when you're 12, 13 years old, whatever, and growing up, and that, it's like, wow, okay.
What really impressed me was that from reading the book, I learned that the first record, it wasn't just a smash and grab, and you just didn't knock it out. There's this kind of punk rock ethos, so like, man, more than one take, and it's gonna be, stale, man. You got to get that energy, and actually capturing energy is it's not as easy as you think, and people don't always get it the first time around if they're honest and they're listening and they're sensitive. The first record took a couple goes at it. You had like, well, we'll do it in an auditorium, but empty. We'll do this and we'll do that, and it took a couple go-arounds, it seemed like, until you got those songs to really stick to the tape in a way that you were happy, and that's production.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that with these guys, they were in this recording studio for the first time, and they had, I think that Paul had a limited number of songs at the beginning, but once, there was a record label that was interested in putting out his recording, or was interested in recording the songs he was writing, suddenly the floodgates opened and he started writing. So while the first time we went in the studio was officially to start the record was September of 1980. And, I don't know that we had 18 songs then.
We had a bunch of covers in there.
Right, but the album ended up with 18 songs. And then actually there were some other songs that I think everybody knew. I said in the book, I called them placeholders, and they really were. They were placeholders until better songs came along. And so they were great in the live set, but it was like when you heard a recording of them, like, Ooh Baby, or I'm trying to think of some of the other titles. There were some real gems there, that maybe would not have stood the test of time. So I think that it gave Paul, the longer period of recording gave Paul a little more time to write, and some of the songs were Westerberg, Stinson, Mars. I mean, we're all four of the guys writing too. So they came along pretty quick once they were given a platform from which to work, which is what, I think my job as an A&R person was to find somebody I thought was good and say, now please don't worry about anything else, you just worry about writing the best songs you can and playing the best you can in live shows, and we'll take care of the rest.
Fantastic.